In a rare turn of events, I think I'm gonna be a little bit of a hater for this movie. That's not really true. I didn't hate this. Everyone does seem to be enjoying this movie so far. I just thought it was okay, so let's get into it. As the opening weekend for this movie has passed, this will be a spoiler-filled video, so this is your final warning to click away before I reveal who survives, who dies, and who done it. Directed by Jennifer Caton Robinson, who previously directed Do Revenge. I Know What You Did Last Summer follows kind of a similar plot to the original. 5 friends inadvertently cause a deadly car accident, cover up their involvement, and promise to keep everything a secret. 1 year later, the past comes back to bite them in the ass as they learn that someone knows about what happened last summer. The group seeks the help of the survivors of the Southport massacre that took place almost 30 years prior. There are 2 things I'm always gonna like look at and notice the hardest when I'm watching a slasher movie, and that is the final girl / girls and the slasher, because I feel like those are like the main components of a slasher movie. So let's talk about the final girls first. I really love this new slasher era that we find ourselves in. It's kind of like a post-meta slasher era where anyone can be a final girl. We can have multiple survivors, and I feel like this new iteration of I Know What You Did Last Summer is a good example of this new era. Ava is the recognizable final girl. She is the more kind of like quote unquote girl next door type, the new Julie James. And then we have our Helen Shivers in Danica. And I love that Robinson, who co-wrote this movie as well as directed, seems to kind of be like writing like a kind of like fan thought wrong from the original movie by saving this version's Helen. And it also kind of reminds me of I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, where both Julie and Carla survive. We love a femme friendship that survives even the most brutal of slashers. I also just love women, so having the body count be almost 100% men was something I definitely clocked when watching this movie. I see you, Jennifer Caton Robinson. I see you. She did have me in the first half though, I'm not gonna lie. Especially when the very first thing that like Danica says to Ava at the beginning of this movie is like, I think you should hook up with Milo. I'm just glad that that energy was not kept for the entirety of the movie, because I got a little scared. The plot of the movie did kind of have a lot going on. I don't think all of it necessarily worked. Like, we have all these threads vying for attention. Like, there's this idea of like a rich white man covering up the group's crime because he can influence the authorities with money. The gentrification of Southport, which also like plays into this kind of like cover up or like papering over of the original massacre. And then of course we have the mystery of like who the killer even is. All of this on top of the death scenes for various characters. I felt like this was a massive distraction from like any possible hints as to who the killer might be, which ultimately results in like Stevie revealing herself and then immediately launching into exposition to give us context for this reveal. And I was reminded by a friend that this is like not uncommon for 90s slashers, which I'm like, true, that is true. I think for this particular movie, it was the immediacy of it for me. So I was just thinking of another example, so I thought of like Scream, which is a good example of this, but there's like 2.5 minutes of screen time between when it's actually revealed to Sydney that Billy and Stu are the killers to when they start actually talking about motive, which I feel like just like it gives you a little bit of time as an audience to be like, oh my God, it's them. And then kind of as you're watching the scene play out, you're kind of also thinking about what you've seen already in the movie and like, there were the clues, there were like these moments were giving us hints for that. And then they launch into the motive and they give all the exposition. But I feel like the key thing here is like having some time from the reveal to all that exposition, where in this movie, I Know What You Did Last Summer, it literally felt like 15 seconds. Like she took off the fisherman slicker get up and then immediately starts talking about it, and I'm just like, can I have a fucking second? At least with the reveal of Ray also helping with the killings, we were given a little more time to digest, but it it only like fully works because of the exposition again. Granted, the original movie and the sequel, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, they use Ray like as a character, like throwing him into question as to whether he's like involved in the killings at all, and then it's used as like a red herring in the movie where it turns out he wasn't involved at all. So as a fan with knowledge of the original movies, I'm like, sure, like I can see where we made the leap to Ray actually participating in the killings this time. I just wonder how this plays for anyone who hasn't. Because I can only imagine that there are going to be fans that this is their first introduction to I Know What You Did Last Summer, and they might not have that context. So I wonder how this plays out for them. And I'm not saying that the twist of it being Stevie and Ray wasn't good. I just wish we had a few more clues to at least like throw suspicion on them, make us question ourselves, even just for a little bit, like just to make us earn that reveal a little bit more. Overall, I thought the movie was okay. I personally think I was a little bit hyped going in, and that has sometimes not worked in my favor before. Based on conversations with friends who liked the movie more than me, I have an overwhelming feeling of wanting to watch the movie again. So my rating may change, maybe it won't. I can't help though but be excited for a potential sequel with Brandy reprising her role as Carla. Like they just better not have done that mid-credit scene for nothing. I'm really anticipating hearing what you guys thought about I Know What You Did Last Summer in the comments. Let me know how it compares to the original for you. I will see you later this week with a Letterboxd wrap-up stream. We could talk about this movie a little bit more in depth maybe there. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, stay strange. Bye.